The snare drum in this track's uneven. If you hear, this hit's louder than the others. Here it comes again. There's lots of tools you can use to control dynamic range. Here, I'm using Drum Leveler from Sound Radix. You can hear how it's levelled out the differences between the snare hits. But, how's Drum Leveler different from an ordinary compressor? Drum Leveler understands the concept of a drum hit. It doesn't just respond to the instantaneous levels like a compressor or limiter does. It looks ahead and it identifies individual drum hits and then, as a whole, decides whether or not to turn them up or to turn them down relative to a target level. A really nice thing is you've got a high and a low threshold, and you can decide exactly what gets treated and what doesn't, and stuff that's either above or below those thresholds doesn't get affected. But things within that range, like in this example the snare hits, because if you notice I'm just avoiding the kick drum, gets turned up or down towards their target level, and how far towards the target level those hits go is dictated by the compression control. If I turn this up, the drum hits which are below the target level go orange and those above go blue. Turning it all the way up, all of those snares will be exactly at the target level. So what difference does using Drum Leveler make compared to using a conventional compressor? Well, here's those drums unprocessed. And here they are through a compressor with typical settings. You can probably hear and see that the snare hits sound and look different. The relative level between the transient and the body of the drum sound has changed. Also, if you listen, you can hear that because the kick drum's below the threshold and everything below the threshold's being processed by this compressor, the kicks are louder compared to the snares. Here's those same drums through Drum Leveler. And you can hear and see that the snare drum hits are even in level and the kicks have been left unaffected. Let's compare these three again. Here's a nice example of the kind of flexibility this technology brings. Here's the same drums, but this time I want to affect the kick drum. What I've done is I've set the high and the low threshold to bracket just the kick drum and to leave the snares alone. And then by moving the target level, I can either increase the level of the kicks or remove them altogether. This is a really deep plugin, and I haven't even begun to look at some of the other features like the sidechain filters, the ability to externally keychain the drum leveler, or even what happens when you turn the compression knob anti-clockwise and go into expansion effects. There's loads of really good information on this Sound Radix website, so head over to soundradix.com and get yourself a demo.